Bloons TD6 is a tower defense game with over 5 years of updates and improvements, with each patch introducing the likes of new heroes, monkeys, bosses, and maps. But update 32.0 changed the trajectory of the game forever. To understand why this update was so radical, we must go back to the beginning and explore the 4 distinct eras of BTD6. June 14th, 2018, BTD6 was released. With it came the 4 initial heroes, 19 different monkeys, 21 unique maps, and 14 difficulties. With this nearly infinite number of combinations, numerous bugs could be found throughout the game. In response to this, the developers were quick to provide patches and updates focused on addressing these bugs and bringing balance to the game. There were boring UI bugs, like portions of the map being blocked by powers, issues with rotating screens on mobile, and many text issues when switching languages or exiting to home and loading back in. Now, these were clearly important to fix, but the funny ones to look back on are the glitches with the monkeys in-game, and there were a ton of these. You could duplicate towers using the support Chinook's reposition ability. Hbomb used to be able to place his trees so far off the screen that you couldn't see them. Spike factories could place their spikes behind the actual exit so you would leak before they were used. Unstable concoction explosions would damage the children balloons of affected blimps, making bads very easy. Jungle's bounty and sun temples would provide extra money in chimps. Monkey commerce would occasionally make itself cheaper. The Juggernaut's balls would not always bounce off obstacles. Sticky bombs could be removed from blimps if a glue effect expired before the bomb went off. Dart monkeys would miss balloons directly in front of it. Super monkey fan clubs couldn't be affected by other super monkey fan clubs. You could get multiple Wizard Lord Phoenixes by buying another while the current one's ability was active, and the mini helicopters of the Comanche defense couldn't be affected by radar scanner, making camo detection pretty difficult. In the midst of bug fixes, in versions 2 and 3, 2 new heroes were unveiled: Captain Churchill the tank expert and Benjamin the hacker. It was clear that their inclusion had been planned for some time, as they were the standout additions amidst all the technical adjustments. There were also massive balance changes, as many monkeys were overperforming and others were struggling a ton. To start, the final upgrade for the Wizard's bottom path was changed from Soulbind to the Prince of Darkness, which went from sacrificing monkeys in order to gain lives to being able to reanimate mobs and BFBs. Other changes included Hbomb's totems now being placed on the track instead of the map. The Wall of Fire went from having infinite pierce to 20, Mob Domination's price was increased by 50%, and the Permacharge abilities damage was doubled. The Energizer's pierce was increased from 30 to 1000, the Permaspike's attack speed was cut in half while the Elite Defender's was doubled, and the Wizard Lord Phoenix's ability now deals 4 times damage on its main attack and 10 times damage on the Radial Fire Burst. This period of bug fixing and significant balance changes went on for just over 5 months. Once these big issues were resolved, Ninja Kiwi made a small pivot with version 6.0 and started the largest era of BTD6's history, that of balancing and growth. This era allowed for further bug fixes, but also expanded the game itself with exciting additions and enhancements. The first addition was in version 6.0 with the Mortar Monkey. This was the first monkey to be added to BTD6 since the game was released 5 months prior. Now, this guy has been in several Bloons games, ranging all the way back to BTD4, but we are excited to see the unique Tier 5 upgrades and its third path, as both of these were brand new. Outside of this, update 6.0 was fairly small, but this is where we started seeing small balancing adjustments like +1 damage and pierce to the Apache Prime become more common instead of the massive ones from the previous era. Not even 1 month later, update 7.0 came out, and with it, a new hero Ezili, 2 new maps in Alpine Run and Peninsula, and race events. The amount of content being added to Bloons in such little time was staggering, and somehow Ninja Kiwi kept up this pace, as every single update seemed to have something crazy to add. Version 8 added 3D mobs, let you remap hotkeys, and reworked reverse mode. Version 9 added Pat Fusty and the Community Challenge editor. 11 added co-op mode, 12 had the engineer, and 14 brought Adora. And just during this time, 15 new maps and 7 new hero skins were added, all by December 13th, 2019, which is about a 13-month window. To spare you the details of every single update, here are the highlights for the rest of the era, which goes until version 26.1. The Monkey Knowledge Tree was reworked, the level cap was raised to 155 along with adding veteran levels later on, Brickle, ETN, Sada, and Sai were all added as new heroes. Player profiles came out, Odysseys and the trophy store were released, which made for tons of customization both in-game and in your profile. The Necromancer and Prince of Darkness got reworked, the Dartling Gunner was added, golden Bloons appeared, the defeat screen now shows which Bloons leaked, and free play rounds were standardized through round 140. Not to mention that new maps kept being added with each update, bringing the total number up to 59, which is almost triple the amount compared to when the game was first released. All the while, small to medium balance tweaks were made, causing many more upgrades, crosspaths, and combos to become viable throughout the years. During this explosion of growth and balancing, many bugs had to be fixed along the way, so here are some funny ones. Siphon funding would sometimes give negative cash among pops. On Peninsula, you could place water towers on the land. Making a Sun Temple too close to your hero would sell your hero. Pat could grab bads as additional targets when grabbing another mob nearby. The Dark Knight could teleport onto the water, forcing itself to sell instantly, and selling a support Chinook would sometimes randomly sell other towers too. In summary, there were more towers, heroes, and maps than ever before. The bugs were kept under control, and the small balancing adjustments made for tons of unique strategies that could easily win if you knew what to do. With BTD6 in such a great spot, Ninja Kiwi released update 27.0, now focusing on a new area that many players had not explored yet, the late game. July 26th, 2021, Bloonarius the Inflator was added along with the Apex Plasma Master and Glaive Dominus. These were the first paragons and boss to be added to the game and completely shifted what most players focused on. Instead of hunting black borders and race times, boss events quickly took over the scene, with players wanting to beat the illustrious elite Bloonarius and get high degree paragon. This required players to get an absurd amount of money in much less time than we were used to, and for the first time in Bloons history, true farming strategies were being developed. Before this, a few players had come up with strats that would make plenty of money to get a VTSG in free play, but there was never a need to have $500,000 by round 80 like there is now. This was a time of innovation, and we saw druid farming and huge monkeyopolises rise to prominence in the early weeks of Bloonarius. But this led to one big issue. There was no ability limit per round, and ranked bosses were not a thing yet, so stalling was a popular way to cheese the boss. All you had to do was make a regrow farm on round 39, and any cash generating ability would make you infinite money. At the time, I took this to an extreme for a video and got around 39 VTSG, but that was a bit overkill. Because of this stall farming, Ninja Kiwi limited cash generating abilities to only be used within the first 3 minutes of each round in update 28. Additionally, the Druid of the Jungle gained a global vine attack, making it difficult to stall if any of them were on the map. Along with these changes, 28.0 also included a new boss in Lich, a new Paragon in the Ascended Shadow, and ranked boss events. So now, stall farming was much worse, and players were incentivized to beat bosses quickly, which is what Ninja Kiwi wanted. With these changes, certain farming strats rose to the top, as most people would boat farm on maps with tons of water and make a small monkeyopolis if there wasn't enough room for boats. With Ninja Kiwi seemingly satisfied with this boss direction, farming went pretty much untouched for the rest of the era. What didn't though were the underused upgrades or crosspaths, as Ninja Kiwi started buffing them. In version 27, Snowstorm, Absolute Zero, and the Tech Terror all got significant buffs to their price or abilities. In version 28, Middle Path Boomers got extra damage, the Sniper Shrapnel can now receive external buffs, Frag Bombs can now pop black balloons, Embrittlement started debuffing blimps, and the Summon Phoenix ability got more damage and a reduced cooldown. In version 29, the Glue Strike and Storm started weakening lead balloons, and the Spike Storm started benefiting from the attack speed buff that the Smart Spikes crosspath provides. And in version 30, Bottom Path Snipers got extra damage to mob class balloons, and the Tsar Bomba got $5,000 cheaper. By most metrics, Bloons was in a great spot. There were tons of players every day, more upgrades and crosspaths were being used than ever before, people were loving all the different game modes and events, and there were even more maps to beat. The only downside was that with all these solid monkeys and heroes, players were having an easier and easier time beating the hardest difficulties even on the most challenging maps. Records were being set for least cost chimps challenges, and black borders were being earned faster than ever before. And then update 31 came out, and with it, Geraldo the Mystic Shopkeeper. He had tons of items that you could buy to buff your monkeys, pop balloons, or make you money. He was built to be one of the best heroes if you're good enough to get the most out of him. There was just one problem. He was so good that even average players were destroying maps with him at their side. I mean, getting a black border was easier than beating your younger cousin at Super Smash Bros. On Thanksgiving break. On top of this, no least cost record was safe from top level players. As of today, there are only 3 LCCs standing from before version 31, and the vast majority of standing records are still from version 31. Additionally, boss events had gotten much easier with the addition of Geraldo. His action figure and fertilizer made him a great farmer. The buffs he could give other monkeys made them defend for very little money, and his Paragon totems made the elite boss much more manageable. It did help that Update 31 also released Vortex, a new boss, but players quickly learned how to take him down. It was clear that the power creep had gotten out of control, and Ninja Kiwi had to step in and do something. And this is where everything changed. Update 32.0 was the first of its kind, marked the start of the final era in the BTD6 saga, and has led the way for change ever since, setting a new precedent for Bloons updates. Instead of small adjustments, they hit overperforming towers with massive nerfs to even the playing field. Just some of the nerfs included in Update 32 were bringing the monkey outpost down from a god tier farming option to just a tower that saves space. The ice monkeys, main mob, and downdraft all got less effective, shrapnel got a pierce reduction, Never-Miss got a price increase, and 7 of Geraldo's items got nerfed. The funny thing is that some of these options were still solid even after the nerfs, but don't worry, Update 33.0 looked at the best option for each scenario and knocked them down a peg. What was the best way to farm? Boats. What was the best way to deal with mob class balloons? The absolute zero. What was the most used Paragon? Apex Plasma Master. What was dealing the most damage for its price? The Tack Zone. Easiest black border strategy? The Elite Sniper. Best early game Bloon Popper? The Wall of Fire. Easiest way to deal with Super Ceramics? Downdraft. And what upgrade let you save up tens of thousands of dollars super easily? The Summon Phoenix. Don't get me wrong, there were still plenty of small buffs to underused towers, they were just outshined by these massive nerfs. One tower did manage to break through in this update though. The Pirate Lord went from one of the least used towers to a staple of water strategies and has even lasted to this day. Update 34.0 continued this trend by lowering the pierce of cluster bombs, ice monkeys, and the Druid of the Jungle's brambles, and it hit the Pirate Lord and Summon Phoenix with price increases. Additionally, it made boat farming even worse and reduced overclock's duration on lower tier towers. There were some nice buffs though, like making Bernie stuff better on the biggest one and making Quincy shoot a third arrow when he hits level 19. This is about the time where I'd say BTD6 became incredibly balanced. Now, you obviously couldn't win with any combination of towers, but the overall power spread got much more even. If you wanted to beat the hardest maps, you had to know what strategies worked best on them. I'd say this is ideal. Whether you're new and beating beginner maps on hard for the first time, or you're one of the best players in the world going for LCC records, every player could be challenged somewhere. Not everyone agreed though, as tier lists like this were made by pulling data from r/BTD6 and various Discord servers. Why people disliked updates 32 through 34, I'm not sure, but I suspect it was because their favorite strategies got nerfed, or general changes like the introduction of the Paragon limit. On to update 35, recursive clusters pierce was cut in half, main mob got a price increase, bouncing bullets number of bounces was reduced, and Churchill, Pat, Brickle, and Psy all got nerfed as they were top tier heroes. In update 36, the Beast Handler stole the show. Not only was everyone enjoying the new monkey, but new guides and 2TCs were popping up. Fun strategies emerged around all 3 of its paths, making for exciting new gameplay. This did not change the nerfing trend though. Update 36 made even faster shooting provide less of a cross-pathing benefit, Arctic Wind and Snowstorm slowing aura was reduced, Dragon's Breath got worse, the Druid of the Jungle got more expensive, and Adora's damage was reduced. Overall, pretty mundane nerfs compared to the last few patches, but that makes sense as most of the OP monkeys had already been dealt with. But that brings us to the present, update 37, where the only big nerf was bringing the Ice Monkey's freeze duration on ceramics down by 50%. Not bad at all, but this update also brought the long-awaited Wizard Paragon, a new Sada skin, and the advanced map Erosion, bringing the total to 68 maps, 23 monkeys, 14 heroes, 37 hero skins, and tons of customizable options. With this insane amount of new content, it is amazing how well Ninja Kiwi has fought off the power creep that has plagued so many games before it, and it's all thanks to the pivot they made in update 32.0.